The Dallas area is loaded with DBs. In today's show, we're going to talk with Marc Henry, a guy that knows the Dallas area better than anybody.
Locked On presents The Portal, the daily podcast covering college football recruiting and everything NIL. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into The Portal. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making The Portal your first listen each and every day. Today's show is brought to you by Wayfair. Make sure you check out Wayfair. It is one of the best places to get your furniture. I just got a desk there here recently. Today's show is also going to be a fun one because we're going to talk about Dallas again. Got my guy, Marc Henry, coming on. This area is loaded every year. Teams always recruit Dallas, and there's no better person to talk it than Marc Henry. What's going on, Big Marc? How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, what's going on, B? Glad to be here, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I love the Dallas area for football. I've been with you in Dallas multiple times, scouting kids. One of my favorite DBs that we saw for Team Grind a few years back, Mr. Malik Muhammad. He's rolling with your Longhorns. I think he's got a chance to be a first-round pick. He's first 2 rounds anyway. He's next up on the 40 acres, and he's kind of a guy that exemplifies year in and year out. Like you and I were just talking about before the show, we're doing a few shorts and whatnot. Check out those too. But every year there's somebody out of Dallas that ends up at OU or at Texas or LSU or Baylor or whatever it is. It's a first or second round pick out of this area. Why is it so good? It could be a quarter, nickel, it could be a safety. Why is it so good at DB in the Dallas Metroplex?
Well, I think it's a number of things. You got to look at the strength of the passing game in Texas high school football. So that also gives defensive backs a chance to get more chances to get hands on the ball and a chance to showcase their skills, especially when it comes to, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. When you play 16 games in the state of Texas, that's a lot of film and a lot of work that you get a chance to put on your resume. And a lot of times right now, the Dallas area is just the home of champions. You look at the Duncanvilles, the DeSotos. You can go up north to Prosper, Allen, South Lake Carroll, Denton Guyer, the Alitos, the North Crowleys. All of these prominent programs are right in the Dallas area. So you have a chance to see some of the top talent in the Metroplex, and it's just a richer get richer every time. And college coaches are really starting to key in on that. If you go back a little while, you remember when they had the beginning of the birth of the satellite camps, where were most of the satellite camps at? Right in the DFW area. Even when Harbaugh was at Michigan, he was holding one here before they kind of cut that out.
Smart.
He was coming right in the hub to get that done. So it just says it about the talent level and then the coaching as well. And putting kids in the proper position. The Under Armour camp is hosted here in Dallas. The Rivals camp is hosted here in Dallas. Prep Red Zone comes to Dallas. So you can look at some of the camps as well. And then the 7-on-7 scene gives defensive backs the chance to, shine on another level as well in a camp setting. And you have some of the top programs for that here. The Texas Threats, the Texas Ice. You have Team Grind, True Buzz, and all of those guys at the forefront. They've produced a lot of the top defensive backs here in the Dallas area. So it's just one of those things where they have a unique advantage of having some of the best coaching and some of the best skill sets right here in the DFW area.
It, to me, started with your first point. It was a brilliant thing to say. They're going against the best passing game. Think about this. If you were playing with the Bulls in the late 80s, early 90s, and you were on a roster in practice, there were 2 guys on that roster different than everybody else. Trying to guard Scotty or especially Michael wasn't fun, but it made you better.
Right.
The Bulls had the best D every year. Why? Jesus, going up against those guys every day, you're going to get better. The receivers in Dallas, we've already talked about some of that. I mean, it's gross how good it is. So they're getting top comp. Secondarily, this is something that you and I have talked about a lot, and we'll get into this a little bit more. At the end of the show, we're going to talk about Texas versus Florida, the trainers, and the absolute insanity with the football facilities throughout the state. But like I went to Denton Guyer a couple of years ago. I might as well have been at the Dallas Cowboys.
Right.
With their facilities, that the guy they hired to be their trainer, like that's his job.
Right.
That's what he does. I'm like, what? And it's just like, he's rolling like that. I'm like, okay.
Right.
And it's, they're doing laser times just at a regular workout.
Right.
That is not normal in, random Arkansas or Missouri or something like, but in Texas, that's how they roll. These kids get it up front, and it's why schools like Kansas will go steal some 3-star kid from Dallas. I can't remember his name, but about 10, 15 years ago, they got a kid out of Sock, or one of them ended up being a corner, played in the NFL for like 10 years. He was like a 2-star kid because they got so many athletes in Dallas. Those schools too, but UT, LSU, Aggies, Sooners, those 4 now. The Ducks are hot in that area. Ohio State, Notre Dame, and Michigan. Like you said, Harbaugh got that role. Everybody hits it because they have to. There's no way you can leave out Dallas in your recruiting and say that you completed your task. Because especially on the defensive side of the ball with DBs, those dudes are tested. Why don't you give us a couple of guys that you like, Mark, however you want to go, and explain why you like them?
I'll start with Frisco Lone Stars 2026 safety, Jordan Deck, 6'3", 185 pounds, UCLA, Washington, Arizona, Memphis, Auburn, Texas Tech, Cal, LSU, to name a few that are high on this guy. He has the speed and, the length to cover lots of ground on the back end, but he's a sure tackler in the open field. He's been doing it for a couple of years up there at Lone Star, and I really like his competitive nature as well. He's a guy that gets it done on Friday nights, and he will get it done on Saturdays as well. I'll give you a couple of young guys that I like as well. Jaquan Snell, 2027 safety from Waxahachie, 26 offers total, but Auburn, Baylor, Arkansas, U of H, Michigan State, Ole Miss, FSU. And then one of the top corners in the 2027 class, Talon Mayo. We're talking about a guy that's 6'4". He's got great feet, great hips. He's a guy that can come down and make tackles in space as well. But his length and his ability to cover downfield are one of the things that stand out with Mayo. And then his length he uses in press coverage. You don't get off the line with this guy. He's got a bright future and a big upside. And then I'll give you a familiar name also in the 2027 class, Cooper Witten. If you hear the sound of that name, Jason Witten's one of his sons at Argyle Liberty Christian. He's one of those. He's an athlete, but he plays primarily on the defensive side of the ball. A real guy that can come up and thump, but he can cover in space. And he helped them win a state championship this year over at Argyle Liberty Christian. A couple of more guys in the 2026 class: Victor Lincoln over at Lancaster High School, Thomas Cook at North Crowley High School is one of those guys that's been blowing up as well. And I think that, when you talk about North Crowley coming off a state championship, Cook's coming back. He's going to be the leader in that secondary along with Aaron Bradshaw as well, who's one of the top safeties in the DFW area.
There's always guys, man. This year it's more safety heavy. It's not as corner heavy, but it kind of goes back and forth. And the great thing about Dallas, there are so many DBs that could be receivers and vice versa. There's some running backs like that. Like you and I have talked about before, David Gross. If you wanted to play him at free safety, man, that dude can cover ground. Like he can fly. And he's 6'3"-ish, whatever. So that we don't know where all these kids are going to end up position-wise. They switch around. So that's all good. When Mark and I come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the big charge that's going on in the state of Texas. The Longhorns, Mark's team, I think they've got a chance to be a really dominant program and maybe even the best team in the SEC. We're going to talk about the Horns next here on the Portal. Whether you're tidying up, clearing out, or just want to give space a new look to start the year, Wayfair has everything you need, all within your budget. I'm currently looking for furniture, and their huge selection makes it easy to find pieces that fit my style and budget. And to that point, I literally just bought a desk that I'm putting together in my front room, a new computer setup that I got off Wayfair for under $130, and it looks great. It is an awesome opportunity for you or anybody else to make your home look better. And it's got free and hassle-free delivery, even for larger items like mine. I didn't pay any extra. So make sure you check out Wayfair for that. And there's something for every style. I wanted something that was brown. If you want black, if you want white, whatever it is, lamps, something for pillows, whatever, Wayfair has an option for you. Give your home the refresh it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's wayfair.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Mark, the Longhorns, in my opinion, I don't really see how they can't get at least one ring in the next 5 years. They dominate. We've talked about this some, and I know you're going to touch on it. Coach Flood gets it done, getting guys up front. They have done a good job of finding D tackles and certainly develop them. And I think we all know Sark understands this position called quarterback. Is there a real chance that they can be the most dominant program in the Southeastern Conference over the next several years based on how they built their roster? They've added portal guys, but especially from the Texas high schools. Tell everybody why the Horns are rolling the way they are.
Well, I think the big thing is they're starting to keep some of these guys in state. In the previous years, we had an influx of guys leaving the state of Texas, and you have to do your homework at home. I think the big reason is this is going to be Arch's team next year. Arch Manning is ready to burst out on the scene and be the guy. We're talking about a guy that's 6'4" with, above average athleticism, elite athleticism at the quarterback position. He's got the big arm, he's got the legs, he's got the stature. I think this is his team now. He's not going to be out of the shadow of Quinn Ewers, which was great for his development to be able to see things ahead of him. I think that was key, and kudos to Sarkisian and the staff for ingraining this in Arch, because you have to convince a guy like this. He's been, one of those guys that hadn't not seen the field since he's been playing. You know what I mean? So for him to wait his turn, for him to believe in the team, to be a team guy, I think that says a lot about Arch as well. And then I think that Texas has a superstar in the making in Colin Simmons. I think
Oh,
Colin Simmons is on his way to being the best player in college football. You can see it being a freshman All-American. Of course, here, in my area, we were privy to seeing this since he was a sophomore. We're talking about a guy that's dominant physically, with next level athleticism coming off the ball, and then his ability to get to the quarterback and make plays in the backfield is next level. And then you have to also look at Anthony Hill Jr. He's going to be the next top pick coming out of the defensive side of the football for the University of Texas. We're talking about a guy that can rush the passer, but he's so long, lean, and athletic, you can put him anywhere. And then you mentioned Malik Muhammad
I
on the
love him.
defensive end as well. So
Yeah.
you're talking about cornerstone type pieces on offense and defense, and then just had the #1 recruiting class with Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, and those guys. So it's one of those things where Texas is really stampeding or making a hayway and keeping Texas homegrown talent home, and I think that's the big key. You have 2 playoff appearances, SEC title appearance. So you're going to be able to play big time ball right here in the state of Texas. And then if you look at the city of Austin, everything is made and tailor made around the University of Texas. They don't have the Cowboys. They don't have a Texas or pro team. So the Austin city, the city of Austin, is geared to support the Longhorns. When you have that recipe for success and you have it around the campus, I think that bodes well for recruiting as well. And then you have to look at the amount of talent that's coming in. These next couple of classes, the 2026 class, I think is going to be important to build that for the future.
Yeah, I think there's a really good blend. They mix in just a little bit of portal, but they, for the longest time, before they joined the conference and it was announced they were going to, man, the number of kids that left Texas out of the top 20 players was probably like 12, 13.
Right.
UT and the Aggies, they would always be in on them until the end, but they missed on a bunch.
Right.
Bama, Georgia, LSU, Florida State, Miami, Ohio State, like Ohio State there for a while, smoked the state of Texas. They really did.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Akuda and some of those other guys. I mean, they got some NFL talent out of y'all's backyard.
Right.
That is at least quote unquote slowed down. It's never going to be completely away, but Texas has started to make a big difference there. So I think they're the safest pick over the next 5 years to consistently be in the college football Final Four. Once you get to the Final Four, it's probably more about who's healthy than anything else.
Absolutely.
And have an Arch, by the way, probably
Right. Well,
helps a little bit.
I think here's the big thing. When you look at projections and you look at where these kids are going, uh, getting guys drafted early on day 1 for the University of Texas is saying something. You got Xavier Worthy, who caught a couple of touchdowns in the Super Bowl. Adonai Mitchell was one of the top drafted guys last year. So when it comes to that, kids want to see that. How do they project that, especially when they're highly recruited? You got to look at where their NFL ceiling is. And if Texas continues to push guys to first and second day picks, that bodes well for recruiting, and it trickles down that way.
No argument there, man. I think that the state of Texas has done it right for a long time, and just the kids just went everywhere. Now, again, Oregon or LSU is going to steal some, but if you look at the list now, it's more centralized. The Aggies are doing a pretty good job too, but I think Texas is the team to watch because they got Diabell and they got KJ Lacey. They stole a couple out-of-state kids at quarterback too. So even after Arch leaves, and I assume he will after this next season, Texas ain't going anywhere. So I think the Horns are going to be in a pretty darn good spot for the long term. When we come back, we're going to talk about a topic that Mark and I both know well. Florida versus Texas in high school football. Who produces what and why? We're going to have our hot takes on that, including which one is the better program in terms of just state talent. Which one you got, Sunshine State or the Lone Star State? Mark, there's nothing that gets fans more mad than telling them that their state's high school football is not as good as in other states. We'll get to that in just a moment. But let's start with Texas. If you could pick one position within the Lone Star State, you're like, this is the spot. Year in and year out, we're all going to look at it and say, we're going to have this kind of play. What spot would you roll with?
You have to go quarterback. Look at the Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes, White House, East Texas, and then you got Jalen Hurts, Houston, Channelview High School. Yeah. I think the quarterback position, you look at Baker Mayfield's a Texan as well. You got to look at, we're producing quarterbacks at a high rate right now.
The guy from the Rams, I forget his name. He played in Dallas.
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, he's another guy.
Absolutely.
First pick in the draft. Got a
First
Super
pick
Bowl
in the draft. We're talking about, and it goes back to 7-on-7 as well, Brian. You look at the way 7-on-7 has merged and just blossomed. The state of Texas was really at the forefront of getting that going, along with Florida and California. So, you have to look at things like that. And you started that. The quarterback position is definitely one of those key positions that you'll see from the state of Texas. Jalen Milroe, former Alabama quarterback, was one of the highly recruited guys coming out of high school. We saw a lot of him coming into the camp scene, 7-on-7 as well. So I think when you start at the quarterback position, the state of Texas is one of those states that's, has a plethora of guys. And I'll just run down a quick list of some of the top guys right now. You got Bo Bentley from Salina High School, Legend Bay from North Forney High School, Quinn Murphy from Argyle Liberty Christian. And this name will sound familiar to you, 2027 quarterback Colton Nussmeyer.
There you go.
As well. And then here's a guy, Brian, and I told you about this guy a couple of weeks ago, Kavion Bryant from Westwood High School.
We love him.
In my opinion, I think it's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the country before it's all said and done. And then you have Keyshawn Henderson coming out of Spring High School, in the Spring area, Legacy Sports Science High School down in the Spring area in Houston. Is probably the top quarterback in the 2026 class in the country. So, the quarterback position is one that you could come to the state of Texas and get a great quarterback and lead your team to a success and possibly a national championship. So, I think I would start at that position in the state of Texas.
Kyler Murray is another first overall pick out of your school up there. Allen. I mean, Absolutely. It's just ridiculous how many kids. Dallas, especially the quarterback, is gross.
Absolutely.
It really is. Kate Klubnik is going to be.
You got the Gatorade Player of the Year in Keelan Russell. So. I've heard good things about him coming out of Alabama so far.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that. You and I have scouted in Florida, and I lived in Florida for a long time. What position in Florida would you say is their spot?
I would say receivers and DBs. It's evident by guys coming from Ohio State, Penn State, Oklahoma, Missouri, Alabama, Auburn, any school in the SEC. You go and get those guys from the state of Florida. And I think that's one position that you guys or the guys down in Florida. Shout out to my guy, Drew Johnson. We have this barbershop debate every week on the 7-on-7 circuit. I think that, Florida has the best skill guys. When you look at the volume of it, you know what I mean? There's a reason that schools are coming. Even Texas has dipped in the state of Florida. Look at Jamie French. So, you have to look at DBs and wide receivers is the state of Florida. That's their specialty. the pedigree and the athleticism and the skill set of those guys coming out of the state of Florida is next to none. So if I'm looking for a skill guy and I'm in a recruiting department, I have no problem going to the state of Florida.
Yeah, especially like Broward and Dade County. It's just
Absolutely.
unbelievable. I believe the 20 Bama championship team, 4 of their DBs were from the Fort Lauderdale area.
Right.
That's just insane. So the two states are different. And for those that don't know, there's this thing called oil in Texas, and it helps the money flow very happily into the high school football programs. As I've said to you before, and I'll say again, I've never been to a high school in Texas where I wasn't like, oh, look at these facilities. I don't care if I was at like Martin or something like that in Arlington, definitely Denton Guyer. Like that is insane. Allen, Texas, they got a $60 million state. They have the more training. You're going to get kids a little more physically ready.
Right.
Most of the time, not always, but most of the time. In Florida, they don't do it right. I mean, I'll just be blunt. The kids eat like crap, but they run track and play football.
Right.
That's been going on for 50 years. That it hasn't changed. So
Right.
you get kids more high upside. But which state would you rather take a kid from it with all the things in play? Do you like Texas better for recruiting, or do you like Florida? They're different. Which one do you like better?
Well, I mean, when you talk about facilities and access to facilities, the state of Texas is second to none. You spoke about Den Guy. Shout out to my guy Kyle Keese over there. He's one of the best strength and conditioning guys in the country. And it's the reason that guys are successful year in and year out is because of their off-season program. If you've ever gone to North Shore or Duncanville in the off-season or DeSoto and even Aledo, the off-season programs are just different, and they have access to a little bit more than the average high school would in other states. Now, what Florida has is just flat out just ability. You know what I mean? And it's one reason I love going to the state of Florida when I get a chance to go down and scout is you see some next level ability in guys that you that may not be rated as the top guys. We're talking about it's levels to it. You know what I mean? You have your high end guys, and then you have these mid level guys that a lot of times people don't get eyes on. And if I'm looking at it from that standpoint, you have to go with Texas as far as the access to high level coaching, high level access to off season training and things like that, and the facilities. It's the first part of the country where you have $1 million stadiums and facilities being built. Most Texas high schools have an indoor facility now, you know what I mean, where they can go and practice outside of the elements. So, your South Lakes, your Allens, your Guyers, Prosper, Frisco, North Crowley, DeSoto's and Duncanville's, they have indoor facilities to practice in. So they get a chance to get, this Texas weather can be, a bipolar type weather all the time. So you never know what you're going to get. You mentioned Arlington Martin, indoor facility. So, when it comes to facilities and things like that, I think that Texas is one of the top states in the country for that. When you talk about just pure athleticism and just talent, you got to go with the state of Florida.
I think that's a really fair way to look at it. And if you look at the ultimate barometer to me is the National Football League draft. Texas and Florida are almost always top 3 for number of players drafted. I think Florida's had it 2 out of the last 3. Sometimes but it kind of goes back and forth. But speaking to the college level, I just think the biggest thing, if I was going to pick one or the other, I might lean Texas for one reason that is unfortunate, but it's cell phone cameras. The kids in Texas, I just think the environments in general are a little better. And these schools are worried about what gets out on social media and everything else. Kids got to make good decisions.
Right.
Money goes into those programs. They got people everywhere to watch these kids and try to help them along. That's the one edge that I don't think it's even close between the two states. Everything else, it's got a 6 one way, half dozen the other. But I just think that the state of Florida, they need to get, and there's been a lot of pushback on this. They've got to pay coaches better, administrators better, because they're leaving going to Georgia. They're going to South Carolina. I mean, I know some of these guys personally. They're like, I didn't want to leave, but it's going to make $50,000 more a year.
Right.
Like, come on, man. I mean, I get it. So they go. If Florida ever got that, it gets scary because it's already crazy. but
Right.
they would push 40 plus players a year going in the NFL draft. They're in the 30s most of the time now anyway.
Right.
Marc, thank you once again for coming on the show. I'll have you on again very soon. Tell everybody where they can find your work, brother.
Well, you can find me at on Twitter at Mark Sports, at MarcHen44, on Instagram, Marc MARC_HEN44. You can check out onthemarksports.com, as well as the On Your Mark show every week from 11 to 12 Central Time on the Fishbowl Radio Network. Just finished up a great 7-on-7 weekend at North Carolina High School. We're heading to New Orleans this week with Dedication to Respect Sports, DR7 Road to the Crown. Then we'll be back in Houston in a couple of weeks, which is going to be a big tournament as well. So, man, all over the place. Follow the platform as well, theplatform.dr.com. If you want to see some undiscovered talent, we saw a lot of talent this weekend. College recruiters are tapping in with that as well. So, I'm all over the place, B. Just appreciate you having me on. And, I definitely enjoy Locked On, and we'll stay locked in.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I like talking about Texas players, comparing them to Florida, mixing in some college stuff. This is a lot of fun, and I hope everybody enjoyed. You can follow this show wherever you get your podcasts. Just type in Locked On, the portal for YouTube, for Apple, for Spotify, whatever it is you're looking for. We will be back again soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share this pod. Everybody be good.